Okay, so let's talk about how to look confident as hell in any situation. And by the way, why would you not want to be confident in any situation? Because showing up as being confident gets you absolutely everywhere. And I'll tell you something, my dad, who was actually Chinese, and he came over here when he was 15 years old from China. He worked his way up. They had nothing. He actually ended up going to Columbia Medical School. He became a doctor. And he used to say, whatever you say it with authority and people will believe you. And I now have listened to Tony Robbins and people like that. And Tony has said, like, whoever speaks more confidently, that's the person who gets what they want in a conversation. So true. You have to say things with authority. You have to show up as confident. And, I've now seen motivational speakers talk about how confidence is a habit, which is definitely true. I talk about how I never leave my thoughts unsupervised because you have to constantly be working on being that confident version of yourself because it's not always easy. People are always there to try to knock you off your game, including yourself. I say that negotiation is something that you're always working on. And sometimes the first negotiation that you're doing is with your own self-worth. So almost all of it is right here. But the person who shows up the most confident in a negotiation is often the one who gets what they want. And people will think what you tell them to think. So it is really, really important for you to show up as the most confident version of yourself. 99% of winning a negotiation is you, your mindset, and how you show up. So this is almost one of the most important videos to watch when it comes to winning a negotiation. Okay, so number 5 is clothing choice. And clothing choice, I love because there's all kinds of psychology around wearing things that make you feel powerful, wearing things that make you feel like $1,000,000. You know how you feel when you put on that power suit or that power dress, whatever it is that makes you feel like, really good, that makes you feel beautiful, that makes you feel amazing, whatever it is that makes you feel like the Adonis or that power suit, right? For the guys. So wear something that makes you show up feeling powerful. Okay, that's number 5. Number 4 is color choice. Many, months ago when I first started doing YouTube, I actually did a whole video on clothing color and psychology. Super old, but you can definitely go take that video out if you'd like. But, there's actually a whole psychology around what color to wear. So color choice is something that you can figure out as well. But, red can sometimes mean danger. Black is definitely powerful, but blue is a color of trust. Green is a color of trust. Those are good colors. Yellow can sometimes mean weakness. White usually means like a good thing sometimes too, so you can definitely figure out what colors to wear as well. Number 3, power poses. Reading other people's body language, looking at your own body language, but power poses, being open, having your arm draped out across the chair. Sometimes this can be a good power pose. Sometimes it can look like you're closed, but sometimes it could be a good power pose. Steepling can look powerful. So I have a whole video on reading narcissist body language, by the way, which you can definitely check that out as well. Number 2, word choices. Be very careful about the choice of words that you use. Don't say, I'm sorry, or you don't have to, or, that's weak ass language. Get that out of your languaging. I'm okay if you don't, or I'm sorry, or be very, very careful about using weak ass language. You got to think to yourself, I'm unstoppable. I remember hearing Tony Robbins, I think it was, talk about how when he was first starting and really like pumping himself up, he used to go running and he would like the whole entire time that he was running, he'd like say to himself, I'm fucking unstoppable. I'm fucking unstoppable the whole entire time. And by the time he was done running, he would like just that was like burned in his brain. So I want you guys to write in the comments right now, I'm unstoppable. I want you to just start thinking that and start burning that in your brain right now. I'm unstoppable. Okay. That's your mantra for today. I'm unstoppable. All right. So that's number 2. And number 1, what do you think number 1 is? What do you think I think number 1 is? I kind of gave you a clue at the beginning of this video. Number 1 is definitely your mindset. I know I fight with it too sometimes. We all do. That's why I never leave my thoughts unsupervised, because you have to, remember that your input equals your output. So what does that mean for me? What does that mean for you? It means when I'm by myself, when I'm driving in my car, when I'm brushing my teeth, getting ready in the morning, when I'm making dinner, walking my dog, whatever, I'm listening to something that's going to be good for my input so that my output is good. I'm listening to an audiobook. I'm listening to a YouTube video. I'm listening to whatever it needs to be so that I am constantly training my thoughts. I'm constantly keeping my energy level where it needs to be. I'm really, really, really attuned to vibrational energy. And I'm really, really attuned to who gets to be in my space, who gets to be around me. No narcissists in my zone anymore. Already had that. I had to deal with one as a business partner that really super sucked, and had to get that person out. I have a friend who says no icky people under the tent. Yeah, I defend my light with my life. Your mindset is super important. You have to keep your vibrational energy super high. That's what's going to help you look confident as hell in negotiations and any time in your life. Confidence is a habit. It is something you have to work on at all times, and you have to remember and you have to remind yourself that you are unstoppable. So I know we don't have a whole lot of time left, but I really want to get to some of the things that you use to motivate people, some of the powerful tools that you use to teach people. So if we could, let's talk about some of the tools that you teach. Just if we could walk through some of the training, some of the tools that you use.
So I'm going to do something that I have never done before. And so this is going to be a moment. And a lot of times I'd say, all right, let's cut, let's take this out. I want to do something fun if you're down with it. Okay.
I'm down.
So in a football game, so I want everybody to listen to this. So those of you that like football or don't like, if you like football, you know what an audible is. The quarterback comes up, he sees the defense, and the defense, they know the play he's going to run. So he calls an audible. It's a different play. Okay. So people who love football, they know an audible. People who don't, you just learned what an audible is. Where the quarterback calls up and starts yelling all this stuff. Rebecca and I had planned on doing what we call a podcast swap, to where she was going to interview me. I was going to interview her. Rebecca, if you're open to it, I think this episode right here, I'm just going to film a special intro and we're going to intro you, because I think you've already highlighted so many, like taking me with my father. I want to give your audience more. I don't think we can recreate what we've already done. So I think it'd be fun to call this audible and say, hey, we're turning this into a dual episode. So for those of you listening to Rebecca's show, we're going to keep it going. And those of you that are listening to The Burn, now you just figured out this has been a special dual episode for Rebecca and I. So if you're cool with it, I think we just keep rolling and give people more of ways that we can help each other, because you keep highlighting so many things. Hopefully I've already sold hundreds more copies of Slay the Bully by saying I needed the book. I think we keep going. What do you think?
I think that that's a great idea, because I'm trying to figure out how do we cut this. And I think that that is a great idea. I think that's a fantastic idea. Yes, I
it. And
love
now
it.
our editing
And
teams are going to be like, okay, that was pretty cool. We've never seen that done before. So for the first time in podcast history, forget the swap. We're turning this into a double episode.
I think that makes perfect sense. And, I grew up going to Redskins games myself. So, I love football.
Well, there's a Redskins jersey. Will Compton was the first NFL player I ever worked with. And so I went to Redskins camps 5 years in a row, first NFL player ever. So now, now they're Commanders, not the Redskins.
I know. I can't deal with that myself personally. We used to in elementary school, used to go, oh, we think Joe Theismann's cute. I don't even remember Joe Theismann, but
Absolutely. Well, let's keep rolling.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think that, yeah. So if you could just give us some pointers on the standard and because I think that it's really easy to remember and it's easy to apply, some of your tips from.
Yeah. So I think one of the things and I think the beauty of your work, as long as you've been doing it, the success that you've had, where you've been featured on Forbes and Ed Milet's show and Dr. Drew, I mean, you're at like the highest level of expert. And so I think it's just amazing the work that you've done. And so when you have that voice to speak with, there's just a different listening because it comes with substance that actually change somebody's life. And I've been blessed. I feel like you probably feel the same way, whether it be in a courtroom or, whether it be through now your research, that you're just exposed to so many ways to learn. And I just feel blessed that I keep having these amazing relationships with people who make me better, but it gives you this amazing research. And so I looked back after writing a handful of books and I said, I think I need to write a book about the standard because, you turn on an interview after somebody wins a championship, the standard, but like nobody broke down, like, what does that mean? And so I wrote the book, The Standard, to help people break down and understand the importance of having standards in your life. So it's not just something that you say, I have standards. It's a manner in which you live your life. You scrutinize your behaviors. You reverse engineer your past success and say, what made me successful? And then my standards are the things that I can replicate, repeat, and drive discipline to not only continue to have that success again, but to have continual peak performance and drive even higher levels of success because you don't get seduced by success when you have it. So we broke down what the standard is and what the standard isn't in the book. And on page 24 in the book, one principle that people have loved, and you mentioned it, is what I call the 4 Ps of the standard. And the 4 Ps of the standard are as follows. It's the problem, the planning, the performance, and the payoff. So I'm a big believer. I'm one of those coaches who I cut it to you straight. The pain and challenge I've been through, I don't want to sugarcoat it, act like we're going to ride around on unicorns and slide down rainbows after our time together today. Like, it's real life. You're either in the middle of a problem right now, you're either just coming out of a problem, you're about to walk into a problem, or you're about to create what oftentimes is the biggest problem we create, which is you're winning. And a lot of people say, how is my winning a problem? Because most people, when they win, they stop doing what caused them to win, which actually creates the biggest problem you can have. And then you question, why did I stop having success? So I believe every day, if you take 2 minutes to go through these 4 Ps, then you will have the opportunity to identify that problem. And once so for those of you that are winning at a high level right now, walk me through this. Okay, so you're winning right now. You just had the best month ever, the best January you ever could have had. That might be a problem. So how do we offset the problem? You wake up and you say, I've been winning at such a high level. What do I need to do today to keep winning? And winning is not the result. Winning is the behavior. And then the byproduct of great behavior and discipline is the result. So then you plan out, if I do these 3 things, 1, 2, and 3, I will keep the momentum going and I'll win. So that's the planning piece. Then the 3rd P is the performance. Very simple, Rebecca. Just do what you say you're going to do. If you know what you need to do and you do it, that's the performance piece. And that's what most people miss. They know what they need to do, and for some reason they choose to not do it. Well, but January was so big. I don't want to go through the challenge and adversity. I don't want to step into harm's way. I don't want to have negativity and rejection. I just today I'm just not going to do it. And if you forget the performance piece, you're really creating a problem then. And so you follow through with the action, do what you say you're going to do, and then you get a payoff. And I always share in business and in sports, when you get the payoff, don't stop. Don't be seduced by success. Recognize that the payoff is confirmation that the process is working. The payoff is confirmations that your standards are causing you to show up and win in your life. So why wouldn't you want to win more? So it's simple. Every day, just keep this cycle going and wake up and connect to those 4 P's: the problem, the planning, the performance, and the payoff, and it'll drive continued success and winning.
You know what I love about it is that I think that the way that people win, and I say this all the time, is that they have to have a context. And most people, I think 90%, and I'm just throwing a statistic out there, they don't have a context. They don't have a future context from which they operate. I think most people are just dealing with the fires of the day. And so therefore they're operating from a past context all the time, instead of having a future context that's pulling them, that they're being pulled toward. Does that make sense?
It does. And whenever people struggle with that, you could almost refer to it as vision or an unclear path of where I want to go. I've asked this question for years. I love asking people who say, I don't know what I want. I don't know where I want to go. It's just unclear. It's foggy. Grab your future and bring it to today. Grab your future and bring it to today. And that's going to get people talking. Nobody's going to say, I want absolutely nothing for my future. And, the easy thing, I can't see anything. It's Claude, but just encourage people, grab your future and bring it to today. Tell me one thing that you would want. Oh, I would love to be an amazing mother. I would love to own my own company. I would love to do X. I'd love to do Y. I'd love to do Z. And then just get people to talk. And I think the more that you ask people questions and engage them and get them to talk and speak and become visual and share what they want, then it's easier to then drive an understanding to what it takes for them to achieve those things. Because all success happens one day at a time. You don't play all 4 quarters of a football game in the first quarter. You play one play at a time for every play in order to complete 60 minutes of playing. And sometimes you go into overtime, but you don't play the whole game in the first quarter. And in life, you don't get to have the entire year in one day. You get it one day at a time. And so I always encourage people, let's get as clear as we can, or sometimes our job is to help people bring them to that clarity to then reverse engineer the behaviors that'll cause them to win every day.
Right. And this is why I'm actually glad that we decided to do our swap here like this, because for me, with my slay strategy, the very first part of slay is S, strategy. And in order to win, you have to have a strategy. And the first part of strategy is creating that vision, creating that, where is it that I'm going? And you don't have to have this as a formal negotiation. This is actually part of life as well. Where am I going? What am I doing? So many times when you're dealing with a narcissist or a high conflict personality, all you can do a lot of times is feel like, I'm this person's in my face. Like as this 13-year-old kid, right? This person's in my face. This guy's in my face all the time. I'm in defensive mode all the time. You're not thinking about, what do I want for myself? All I can think about is surviving. And that's what happens with most people. And so when they come to me, which, I don't do a lot of one-on-one coaching, but even in my certification program now, because I certify coaches, I tell them, when you're coaching people, get them to tell you, what is it that they want from their life? Where is it they want to go? Because a lot of times they don't know. Get them to visualize it. Then the more specific that they can be, then now they're being drawn toward that future. The more specific they can be, the better it is. Well, where do I want to be a year from now? Well, I want to live in this house, and I want to be by the ocean, and I want to be divorced, or I want to have a better boss, or I want to have start a business, and this is what I want it to look like, and I want to be free from this person. Okay, great. Let's get you there.
Mm.
How are we going to get there?
See,
Now,
what I love about that is you're helping people bring clarity to what they want, which then from a coaching perspective allows you to say, okay, what do we need to change in your environment today? What do we need to change in your behaviors today? What are the things that you've actually put in your way, in your environment, that are keeping you from having those things you say that you want? Because everybody would say, I want to live to the standard, but you can't say it, you got to do it. So if there's something in your environment that's keeping you from doing it, you got to clear that obstacle out of the way. And that's what I
exactly.
love about your process, is that it causes people to find that clarity, to almost have that empowerment to say, I'm going to get those obstacles out of my way because I know where I'm going.
Exactly. But let's figure out where you were going first, because it's like a GPS. You're not going to just get in your car and say, let's just drive and hope you get there.
Right.
You got to get in your car and plug it into the GPS and then go. And
So
then,
take us to the L. Take us to the L.
yes. Well, once you get in your car, then you don't hope that you're going to get from LA to San Diego. You know you're going to go from LA to San Diego once the GPS is plugged in. You don't go, oh my gosh, I think I might end up in San Francisco. I might end up dead on the side of the road. You don't think that. You believe you're going to go. You believe with all your heart you're going to get there. You know you're going to get there. I mean, you pack your suitcase, you start imagining yourself there, you start planning your activities. Once you're going to get there, you meet up, you know you're going to meet up with friends, you start thinking about what you're going to wear. That's where your mind starts going. And that's how you start manifesting that, right? And then you got to start taking the steps. You got to start executing. Execution is key. If you don't start actually doing, then you're not going to get there, right? So making actual plan steps, then doing. Then the next thing is leverage, creating that leverage. So the leverage is always going to be, when you're dealing with a narcissist, looking at narcissistic supply. All narcissists are driven by narcissistic supply. What is it that feeds their ego? So all narcissists feel totally and completely empty inside. They are completely shame-based individuals. They feel the most pain, the most shame of all people. They're completely fear-based individuals, and they are the most scarcity-based individuals. So all of their feeling of value has to come from what we call narcissistic supply, but there's two forms of narcissistic supply. It's either image-based, which is going to be anything with related to image. So it could be big houses, money, cars, good job, the new girlfriend, whatever is related to image. And it could be ill-gotten or not. They don't really care, but it has to do with image. And then the second form of narcissistic supply, so diamond level supply, they will protect and defend this at any cost, even at the cost of their children. They don't care. The second thing is the what I call coal level supply, which is pushing other people down to make themselves feel good. So that's the degrading, the debasing, the passive aggressive behavior, but it could also be victim based. It could also be, poor me, guilt tripping, that sort of thing as well. But it's all based around feeding this ego. Now, how do you create leverage? You create leverage by threatening a source of supply that's more important for them to keep than the supply that they get from jerking you around. The myth is that narcissists just want to win. That's the myth. Everybody thinks narcissists just want to win. That's the problem. Narcissists do want to win, but they also want to continue to lead you around, make you miserable, and keep you on their string. And that's why
Mm.
they continuously move goalposts in negotiations. And that's why,
Which is what I felt with my dad. No matter what I would do, it was always nothing was ever good enough, and it was just this constant. I mean, I would walk in to be with him, and it was like he knew he could control me. He knew that he had the power. He knew what to say. I mean, it was just. I mean, it was the highest level of manipulation when I look back on it that I ever could have experienced. And
it's a
now I
sadistic,
look and I say, God, like, how did I give him that power?
they have a sadistic streak, right? Because they get off, they literally get off on making you squirm, seeing you sweat. They
Mm.
enjoy that. They get a high on that. And so the trick in building leverage is threatening a source of supply that potentially exposes that image. And so if you're negotiating with them, like because they're you have to in some way, whether it's a divorce, a business partnership, maybe it's a boss or whatever it is, then you have to look at how can you threaten that source of supply, whether it's coming up with summaries of lies and inconsistent statements, or maybe it's threatening to depose a potential witness or whatever it is, something that's going to have them go, oh my gosh, I don't want that to happen. So therefore, I'm going to need to let go of the source of supply, which is manipulating you, so that I have to protect me, this image.
Mm.
And then that's the leverage. That's how, and then you have to cut that off and then not deal with them again. Now, if it's a family member, obviously that's a whole different conversation. There may have to be some kind of very specific types of boundaries that you are going to control and define going forward. That's a different story. That's leverage. And A is anticipate. Anticipate what they're going to do, be 2 steps ahead of them. Each type of narcissist, covert, passive aggressive, they're one type. Grandiose, a different type. Malignant, different type. They all act differently in negotiations. You have to be ahead of that. If you know what type you're dealing with, you can anticipate that. You can be prepared for that. For example, the grandiose narcissist, more likely to file false pleadings, more likely to ignore court orders. The covert passive aggressive narcissist, more likely to line up flying monkeys and act like they are caring about people. That's how they smear people. So they might smear in terms of care. For example, they might say, oh, I am just so worried about Susie and her job performance lately. I'm just, she's just falling down on the job a lot. And I, I just, I'm don't only mentioning this because I'm just worried about her. She hasn't been up to her usual standards. She's been making a lot of mistakes at work. She might say something like that to other people, and she probably hasn't made any mistakes. Or
Mm.
she might say something like, oh, I'm worried about Johnny and his drinking. I'm just concerned about him around the children, and probably no trouble with drinking whatsoever. But they say it like in terms of care, like they're such a
Mm.
good person. And that's how they smear people, that sort of thing. They're just more passive aggressive. They show up like they're such good people. That's a covert. Then anticipate that they're going to try to bait you. They're going to try to trigger you. They're going to try to, go for exactly the types of things that they know are important to you. If they
So
know,
let me let me get, because this like plays right into this. So imagine me 15 years old. I'm sitting on the couch, and this is the baiting that you're talking about. So for somebody who's dealing with this might be helpful for you to walk through what I maybe should have done, or maybe I handled it the right way. But it got to the point where he would try to bait me. I would engage. And then I realized after a while, like I was giving him what he wanted. So then it got to the point where when I was about 15 years old, he would come home from a day at work. I'm upstairs doing my homework or whatever I'm doing, and he'd scream and yell, "Get down here!" And I'm like, "Oh gosh, here we go again." And I would just sit on the couch, and he would scream and yell. I mean, just bury me with just this negative, awful, horrible, painful, just screaming, and I would just sit there like this.
Mm.
And it got to the point I would say nothing, and then he
Mm-hmm.
would say, "What is that look on your face? Why are you smirking at me?" And it was like,
Yeah.
it was almost like he was trying to get it out of me. And I would
Right.
just sit, and it drove him crazy because I wouldn't give him what he wanted. And then
Right.
it would just make him angry. And then the rage would just go to the next level. And then finally I was just say, "I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting here." And then he would really get set off. And I never knew how to handle it in that moment. So I thought just being quiet and not doing anything was the way to do it. I wish I would have known how to negotiate through it better rather than just sitting there.
Right. Well, I tell people you always have a right to be respected. You always have a right to be respected. And so, step one, don't run. Step two, make a U turn. Step three, break free. And
Mm,
so, having now the information that I gave you earlier about how their brain works and that sort of thing, the very first step is create a boundary. Create a boundary. And that very first boundary is you have a right to be respected. And so just start looking at them as if they're having a 2-year-old having a tantrum on the floor. And just, yeah, just start observing their behavior to them. Oh, I can see that you are upset. I can see that you are angry. We can have this discussion when you are calm. Just keep their behavior over there. It has nothing to do with you. I tell people to put an invisible Teflon, invisible uh, boundary down around them, and just start to observe their behavior to them because it has nothing to do with you. So I just say, like, be like Superman with the bullets off of you, or Wonder Woman with the bullets off of your wrist, and just start observing, don't absorb. Observe,
mm,
don't absorb. Just, we can have this discussion later. I can see that you are angry. I can see that you are upset. Or sometimes I say you can react with curiosity instead of anger. Oh, that's interesting. Why would you say that? Oh, that's interesting. Why would you think that? You just observe, don't absorb, or react with curiosity instead of anger. The other thing I often say is never jade, which I always say I love jade because I'm half Chinese, so I love jade, but I say never jade. Never justify, argue, defend, or explain.
mm.
I always say, like, pretend like you're reporting the news, just the facts. So just the facts. Because the more you try to justify, the more you try to defend, the more you try to explain, the more you try to argue, then you're giving them supply. You're actually down in the mud with them. You're never going to get them to acknowledge you. You're never going to get them to see your side. You're never going to convince them of anything. That is a circular conversation that is going nowhere,
Mm.
literally going nowhere. So, where do you think you're going with that? You're never going to get them to go, oh, you know, you're right. You've convinced me. That conversation's never going to happen. So, where do you think you're going with that? Just never jade. Just start observing their behavior to them. Observe, don't absorb.
All right. So I know we'll be hitting our finish line here shortly. So what is the why?
Yes. So the why is you and your mindset. So
Mm,
100% of your mindset is of winning is your mindset. So if you don't believe you can win, nobody can help you. I tell people that all the time. You could have whoever you want to pick as your personal coach or your personal attorney, whoever you want as your dream team could show up and be your personal whoever. If you don't believe that you can win or that you're worthy or you're whatever, nobody can help you. Okay. I swear to you that this is the truth. You have to believe it. You have to believe it first. Just start visualizing it, start saying it, start knowing it, start being it in every being of your body, and it will happen. Football teams do not win with a good defense, they win with good offense. You have to know that you have to be on the offense. That's another thing. You have to be offensive. Stop thinking about what's going on the other side. They're doing this, they're doing that, they're doing this, they're doing that. Work on your side of the equation. I know so many times as a trial lawyer, and I've done thousands of trials. I'm telling you right now, I've won a lot of trials and I've won a lot of negotiations. Every single time a lawyer would show up in the courtroom and their entire case was how bad we were, they lost. You have to have a good offense too. So just focus on your side. Yeah, you got to know what the other side is going to argue. You got to be ready for that. All of that, of course, too. But know what your position is going to be. And just focus on your authentic power. Your authentic power. Every time, one of my favorite stories in the world is The Wizard of Oz, because Glinda the Good Witch, she had authentic power from the beginning. And if you remember at the beginning of The Wizard of Oz, when the Wicked Witch came flying around her, she flicked her away and said, "Go away, you have no power here. That's where you're going. Go away, you have no power here." Because that's where you stand if you have authentic, true power. No, the narcissist will be like a gnat flying around with you because you'll stand in your true power, just like we talked about at the beginning of this podcast. When you know who you are and you are living out God's true purpose for who you are as a soul, as a being, you're in for God's truest and highest intention for your soul, living at your highest purpose on this planet, nobody can touch you. Nobody can touch you, right? I mean, for people who are listening, who are thinking, I just don't feel confident at all. Maybe they feel imposter syndrome. I mean, I think we all have that at times, right? And stepping out onto a stage, maybe it's an arena that they're not comfortable with. And, feeling, oh my God, this is not me. What would you say to them?
Comparison is the enemy. Analysis paralysis will hold you in your fear and silence. And the reality is, guys, this is one life. We have such a short period on the planet. And without putting yourself out there and trying it and being willing to look stupid, ask a question and say, hey, I might be the only one in this room that doesn't get it, but why is it this way? Or how would you think about it? I think people give grace to those who come in with an eager heart to learn and want to know more. And the confidence is your muscle, waking up every single day and putting that question forward and taking the risk that you may be the one that everybody's looking at going, why doesn't she get it? I got this like 10 minutes ago. I promise you, you're not the only person who doesn't get it. You're just not.
Well, and it's taking that risk that maybe you are smarter than you think. Maybe you are, better than you realize. I mean, honestly, I had the same thing happen with me when I went to law school. I was like, oh my God, I don't think I belong here. And then I started to realize maybe, wait a minute, maybe I do. And same thing, when I graduated and everything else. I mean, it's the actual doing that makes you start to realize, oh, I can do this. I mean,
1,000%. I would warn against the thing that I did for a lot of my life. And if you find yourself overcompensating because you don't think you're getting it or smart enough, fast enough, or able to compete. So what I would do is just drive myself into this white knuckle over, like if someone put in 8 hours, I'd put in 12. If someone was putting in 12, I'd put in 24. I'd do all-nighters. I would take a red eye. I'd get there the day before. I was so hyper vigilant and so hard on myself because I had this belief that I wasn't as smart or capable, that I had to be 10 times better in order to just be a table stakes baseline, that I drove my sense of needing to be enough to a place where it almost took me out. And I would say that to my marriage. I would say that in my business partnership. I would say that in relationship with what we're calling narcissists, where we're over giving, overcompensating, over allowing bad behavior because we believe somehow something's wrong with us. And so we have to show up and like prove why we belong at the table just to feel like we are enough to be in the room. And so we give so much. And it's like, you wake up one day and you realize, if I keep this up, there's no oxygen mask for me. I have, what do we do?
yeah. So it's such a beautiful segue into a conversation that I wanted to have with you today. And actually a conversation that we actually had over the weekend, which is, a kind of a hustling for your worthiness conversation, right?
Yes.
And, and I think a lot of times, a lot of us have that feeling. And especially I think as empaths, and we call ourselves empaths, and I think we are empaths a lot of times, but I think it also comes from a core wound that many of us have, growing up, especially if there was trauma in our homes and how we process trauma, especially if we were the ones that had to be the ones that were hyper responsible in the home and take on responsibility, where we had to kind of grow up faster than we maybe should have or something like that. And so, you think, I can fix it. I can do it. I can, if I'm just better, if I'm just, if I can just prove that I'm, show them that I can take care of it. I can take care of them. I can be this thing, then I can. And because I think sometimes you are so good at everything else that you think you can show that you are worthy in this way too. I don't know, but
I don't know. Here's the thing. What I learned in my first marriage, which was not what I would call traditional marriage. I really got married to a friend so we could have kids, because I didn't have a good picker. And so I kept dating the wrong guy. And I think what I was trying to do is heal from mom and find an equivalent to a male partner who was my dad, or a personality type. And, one of the things that I now know is that when you're hyper vigilant, you're really type A, you're ambitious and driven as a female. That's not hyper female energy, right? And in fact, so much so that in my 30s, I always felt like I was worried that people would think I was too pretty to have the real business opportunity, meaning you could either be pretty or you could be smart. And I had this false belief that you had to kind of pick a lane. And so I was like, oh, I'd much rather be really smart and very ambitious, successful, and wealthy than be pretty and somebody's token piece of, the kind of arm candy. I had this weird belief about having to kind of think through picking a lane. So I really leaned in that masculine energy, even like the loafers and the pantsuits and
Mm.
minimal makeup, and really was conscientious about my body and felt like I needed to hide my curves. I had all of these beliefs around that. And what that attracted was relationships with men who did not take that masculine role, right? I was attracting men who I liked were type A alpha, would run after 2 or 3 dates. And then the kind of more submissive, passive type of guy would be more inclined and interested in getting to know me, date me. But guess what? They actually then end up resenting you, because in these relationships, there has to be this polarity of female male energy for it to work long term. So it was really kind of understanding in my 30s, getting to know myself. And if this resonates for anyone, what it does is it kind of creates this very difficult and lonely relationship dynamic, because you end up missing out on juicy relationships with bodice ripping romance with hot, hunky alpha type guys that are really the guys that make us feel feminine and sexy and pretty and desired, right? And so what you end up with is someone who's submissive and passive, and you're not attracted to them. And then you're thinking, where's the sexy hot guy, right? Some of my friends date the mean guy, because at least he's sexy, hot, and kind of aloof and submissive. That's hot, but that's not.
Well, yeah. And then they only think they are worthy of that, of course. Right.
Totally.
And,
So it's
and
all a journey, right? It's like trying to get back to baseline, to me, means learning to really, not this idea of like how to love yourself, but like getting really raw with who do you authentically, transparently, and vulnerably want to show up as? Who are you? And be really comfortable with who she is. And for me, that ended up being, look, pink, lip gloss, you know, hair that flows. I love lingerie, I'd love to smell good. I love candles, whatever it may be for me. That expression in the last 6 or 7 years of embracing my idea of being feminine and showing up in my feminine self and feeling really powerful in my femininity has been I think my favorite part of my personal journey and transformation.
One of my favorite holiday traditions is baking cookies with my daughter. We've done it every year since she was little. And now, even though we're miles apart, I can see those memories come to life again right here on my Aura frame. What if you could give a gift that brings your holidays to life all the time, every single day? And with an Aura frame, you can. I absolutely love how easy it is. You can preload the photos before you ship it as a gift, and then you can actually remotely continue to add to it. It includes photos and videos, all for free, and it comes packaged in a beautiful gift box, no price tag. Can't wrap togetherness, but you can frame it with Aura Frame. And for a limited time, you can visit auraframes.com and get $45 off Aura's best-selling carver mat frame, named #1 by Wirecutter, using the promo code Rebecca at checkout. That's auraframes.com. Promo code Rebecca. This exclusive Black Friday Cyber Monday deal is their best of the year, so order now before it ends, and make sure you mention the show when you go to checkout. Terms and conditions apply. I still have fear at times, and it's really, really hard. And so I want to talk today about how you turn your fear into power? How do you have that unshakable confidence? I know a lot of people feel like, oh my God, you must be confident all the time. I've done lots and lots of trials. I teach people how to negotiate with narcissists, right? Does that mean I'm never afraid? No, I still get triggered. I still have those times when I'm walking into meetings or I'm walking into situations and I go, oh my God, how do I handle this situation? Right? I still have those times where feeling intimidated. How do you handle that? Well, first of all, I want you to know that by the end of this, you will have tools. And if you are new here, you haven't subscribed to this channel, I invite you to do so, because every single day I'm helping you have tools, have resources so that you can feel like you have a voice. And I know sometimes you feel like you don't. Sometimes you feel so afraid. And especially when you're dealing with toxic people, they can trigger you. They go right for that jugular, they go right for your Achilles heel. They know where to go. They do. And your breathing starts to take over and your amygdala is shaking and you're like, oh my God, because they know where to go. The first thing I want you to do is start to realize, what are your triggers? What is it that is triggering you? And just start to notice when you are feeling a certain way. I think if you can start to stop and see what it is that triggers you, and I say stop, swap, and soar. Okay. Because that first stop where you can go, let me pause, let me not react and not act impulsively, and just be in a breathing state for a moment, just even a moment, and notice that you are being triggered. It really helps in realizing that a lot of times it's just a thought. Your thoughts are just energy, they're just beams of neurons that are going on in your brain. They're not necessarily real. It's just a thing that happens to you. If you can stop for a moment and regain your composure, it gives you a second to realize, you know what? I can put an invisible shield and that invisible boundary down around you so that you can start to see that other person as if you are observing them, as if you're observing like a toddler having a tantrum on the floor. And then you can put this boundary down around you and say, you know what? I'm a person who deserves respect. You can put like that Teflon down around you and start to have a shield and demand that you're spoken to with respect. And have that mindfulness, have that composure. Just pause. That's your first thing. Reflect. Then you can start to go, you know what? I can see that you're upset. I can see that you're angry. I can see that maybe we need to take this and speak later when you're calmed down. And then for yourself, you can reflect on the things that make you angry, the things that cause you to be defensive. I know for me, if somebody speaks to me in a way that is condescending, that to me is a trigger. And I get defensive on that. And that's a common theme for me. And I immediately, want to be triggered by that. And so for me, I have to stop myself and go, I'm not going to react, because I can do things or I can say things that might cause me to do things that I might regret. So I have to stop and I have to go, you know what? What causes me to have those emotions? The best skill that a human can have is control of their emotions. Start to journal, write about your experiences, write about your feelings. Over time, if you can reveal your patterns, you can reveal your triggers, it'll really help you, because then you can start to notice them. What are the physical sensations that you have when you start to feel triggered? What are the physical signs that are your emotions? Do you get a racing heart? Do you have tightening in your chest? Do you have a knot in your stomach? And then start to engage in that and be more attuned to your bodily responses. And then when you start to feel those signals coming on, you can go, you know what? I'm going to take myself out of this right now. I'm not going to allow myself. You can start to observe, not absorb. Invisible boundary comes down. Excuse me, I'm going to remove myself from this situation right now. Learn to notice those external cues when you're feeling disrespected, when you're feeling unheard, misunderstood. Excuse me, I see that you're upset. You can take that pause. You can identify those emotions. You can acknowledge your feelings. You can take that moment to use that rational thought. I say take a pause, right? Pause and breathe, acknowledge your thoughts, use rational thought, shift your focus, and then excuse yourself if needed. Pause. Then you can take the time to reflect. So that's stopping. The next thing is to swap. The swapping is to now you can shift into being more powerful, turning your fear into power. What can you do instead? You can make a plan. You can say, next time we talk, we're going to have an agenda. We're going to have a scope. We're going to have a time limit. I call it making a plan, Stan. When you go to talk to them, you're going to have an agenda. You're going to have a time limit. You're going to say, we have to stick to this time limit. We're going to have to stick to this agenda. And that's it. You want to go beyond this scope? Sorry, buddy. We're not talking about that today. When it hits the time limit, I would love to talk to you more, but sorry, gotta go. Make sure they know about the scope in advance. Make sure they know about the time limit in advance. And then the next thing is never jade. Even though I love jade, love it, but I don't love never jade. Never justify, argue, defend, or explain, right? Never justify, argue, defend, or explain. When you're having a conversation with them, instead of using anger, use curiosity. Tell me more about that. Why would you say that? That's interesting. Instead of anger, use curiosity. So that's how you respond. Observational phrases like you're reporting the news. You're never justifying, you're never arguing, you're never explaining. You are just reporting the news, just the facts. If this is helpful so far, I want to hear a yes. I want to see yes in the comments below. Helpful? What has helped you so much so far? Give me some feedback in the comments below on this video, and I want to get some conversation going. What has given you the most fear? What gives you the most fear when you go to have conversations with difficult people, or people who are toxic, people who are intimidating you? I want to know. When you comment on this video, it actually helps other people too. When we share, when we're vulnerable, when we talk about this, it actually develops a community here, and we actually help each other. We empower each other. We inspire each other. We lift each other up. Comment below what has helped you, or what phrases have helped you so far that I've given you. All right. Another one is a non-confrontational phrase, like just, that's an interesting perspective, something like that. Or thank you, I'll consider it. I agree that that's your perspective. Interesting feedback. Just say anything like that. Non-confrontational phrases. The next thing is the what's so principle. You know what that is? You keep your focus on what is so instead of the what if. What's so instead of what if. The facts. Keep yourself focused on what is actually happening. A lot of times, the what so principle is so much better. How good have you been? How amazing you've been? What you've accomplished? The things that are going on in your case. Rely on factual reasoning, or the things that are really going on in your world. And if you're going to go off into what if, by the way, how about what ifing yourself into great things? Because you're going to what if yourself into an amazing future, because your thoughts create your reality. Or take a time out. The other thing I do with fear, by the way, is I like to have a conversation with fear. I get to say, hey, fear, we're going on a ride. We're going to do this thing and it's going to be kind of scary. I get that you're going to come along, but you got to sit in the back seat and you got to keep your mouth shut. And you definitely do not get to touch the radio, and you definitely do not get to touch the steering wheel. It's another great way to turn your fear into power and unshakable confidence in any conversation. The last way is to soar. Now you're ready to soar. Now you're ready to rise above any conversation. You get to stop. You get to assess and swap that conflict for cooperation. You are positioned to soar and become your authentic self and stand in your true power. Now you're ready. You overcome those self-limiting beliefs by starting to identify yourself as someone who is powerful. Set a new floor for yourself. Instead of saying, I'm shy, say, I'm a person who's powerful. I'm a person who is assertive. Use I statements. I respectfully disagree. Visualize your success. Visualize yourself doing powerful things. And whatever you visualize yourself doing, visualize it the next level up. Your reticular activating system is looking for evidence in reality for whatever it is that you think you are. So look for evidence in reality of good things. Journal your future self. Journal who you are in the future. Write a letter to yourself 6 months from now of all the things that you've accomplished. It's a powerful exercise. Stand in 6 months from now and go, wow, I've done all these amazing things. It's a fantastic exercise. And, you know, one of the things that you talk about, which I think is so powerful in creating confidence, is that you say that confidence is not found in a book.
Yes.
You know, that confidence is not found. You know, you talk about how you, became coach of the year with Beachbody, right? And, you know, you rose so quickly.
Yeah.
In that. I mean, it was so awe-inspiring how you did that. I mean, so awe-inspiring how you did that. And, you know, you started watching YouTube videos of people that you admired, and you started like just kind of taking on these personas, but you started taking massive action. And one of the things that I say all the time is that the difference between people who are successful and the people who aren't it's really just one thing, and that's execution.
Absolutely.
And
in everything, just like you're saying, in the job, in the relationship, in the personal journey, no matter what we're talking about, success in, you know, your fitness goals, whatever it is, it's execution versus thinking, right?
Yeah. But what I love that you just said, what you know, one of the things that you say is confidence is not found in a personal development book. It's like in the doing, because, you know, if, you know, let's just say you want to get fit or whatever, and you just decide, you know what, I'm going to start off by walking 200 steps a day.
Yeah.
You know, like that's my goal. You know, normally I never get off the couch, but starting tomorrow, I'm going to walk 200 steps a day, not 10,000,
right?
200.
Yes.
And you complete that goal, that will start making you feel more confident.
100%. Just like I said earlier, it's that little promise. We want to always be so careful that the negotiating with ourselves, right? The promises or the contracts that we're drawing up with ourselves are so small that they're almost impossible not to not do them, right? And I totally, echo what you were just saying. Knowledge is found in a podcast. Knowledge is found in a book. Knowledge is found in all of these consumables. And so they're amazing, but knowledge doesn't get you anywhere in life. It gets you nowhere. And the only difference is execution. You know, I think that overthinking is one of the biggest things that holds everybody back.
Oh,
You know,
yes. That analysis paralysis thing.
yes, it's like we want to talk to 16 friends and, you know, ruminate over this and ruminate over that. And should I do this? And should I? I'm like, just do it. Just do it. If it doesn't work, do something else.
You can definitely build the plane as you're flying it.
Abso-freaking-lutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
You
that
have
was
to build the
such
plane as you're flying
aha
it.
moment for me.
Yeah.
That was such an aha moment for me. Like you can, like one of the things that you were talking about was how like you don't have to be good at social media before you start it.
Yeah.
Like just do it.
You just have to do it. And let's go back to like that specifically, just as an example, one among many things, the people that so many people want to aspire to be that are online or speaking on stages or have written the book, they all started, they were terrible, right? Like we were all terrible in the beginning. And the only way you get good at social media is by doing social media. The only way that you actually get better at speaking is by speaking more. The way that you get better at your people skills is not out of a book. It's by having conversations and interactions. All of success is found through action. And, you know, the more and more you do, the better you're going to get. And getting comfortable with failure, you know, I don't even like the word because I just don't even believe in it. I truly don't believe that it is how people define it. It's like there really truly aren't any failures because every time something doesn't work out, it's just data where we go, okay, that didn't hit or that didn't work. Or next, you know, I've got to pivot. I've got to try this. I've got to try that. And I may try 25 things and then it finally kind of hits where most people are still on number one and talking about whether they should maybe do number one. And I'm like, I've tried 24 things since you're still thinking about doing number one. You just have to do it. You really do.
100%. 100%. I mean, you know, it's so funny because as you're talking, I remember when this lawyer that I worked for, the very first law firm I ever worked for. I mean, I remember I had passed the bar. No. I'm sorry. I had taken the bar, but there's this like 2-month delay between when you take the bar and you get your results. Right. So I wasn't technically a lawyer yet.
Yeah.
Right. You know, so I had graduated law school, took the bar, but I didn't have results yet. And so I was working for this lawyer and he had me draft this marital settlement agreement. And he's like, I'm going to have you go in and have the guy sign it. And I'm like, okay, you know. And so the paralegal comes in and she notarizes it and then she leaves. And then I'm in there with this guy. And then so the paralegal leaves. So the only person who had any knowledge whatsoever about the process or whatever, she just left the room. So I'm in there and the guy signs, you know, and he goes, so what happens from here? And I'm like, and you got me, buddy. I had no idea. I'm like, so I was like, oh, you know, we'll put it all together and you know, review it and
figure it out as you go.
And you know, we'll give you a call.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and like when I look back at that, you know, and I remember the very first time, because I remember when I first went in there for my job interview and I saw this big, huge book and it was the best lawyers in America. And it was, you know, US News, the best lawyers in America. And I remember thinking I was so impressed with that. And I thought, I'll never get into that. Like, wow.
Right.
And so the very first time I ever got included in that, because it's the top 1% of
it's amazing,
right? And then I got included in the judicial section of that, where the judges choose that, and I was like,
wow,
God, I actually made it. Like I made it to that. You know, I was so proud of myself, right? And so I look back on that moment of, well, we'll put it all together. And
yeah, exactly. Right.
and
You're just
we'll
winging
review
it.
it.
You're just winging it. And had you not taken those steps,
But I wouldn't have learned
there.
about how to do it by like reading it in a book,
Yes,
like you
yes.
have to do it.
I remember I had a very similar moment where there was a week where my face was in Times Square, like every hour on the hour or something. And I remember sitting at home, like doing my normal life. There were moments too where I'm like, here I am, like scooping up dog poop and my face is in Times Square. And this actually right now in this moment, So first of all, like humbling ourselves that all these people that we think are amazing, like they're scooping dog poop too,
Yeah.
But I did have the moment of like, how in the hell did this happen? Like, how is my face in Times Square right now? And what I remember the light bulb moment was like, it's because I just haven't stopped in action, right? It was like, I literally haven't even stopped to think that much because I just do and I do and I do and I go and I go and I go and I try something new and that didn't work. So let's try something new and that didn't work. I just haven't stopped taking action. That's why my face is in Times Square. And most people stop they're stopped 99% of the time and moving in action 1% of the time. That's the difference. And it doesn't mean you and I are succeeding in all that action. We're falling on our face all the time. We're making mistakes all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
I just did a big keynote this past weekend. And I mean, people have heard it before, but it bears repeating. Successful people have just failed more, right? Like we've got to build a thick skin and an armor. If we want that level of success, we better be ready to take on the hits. And so, if you are at a place where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't handle my next door's neighbor's made up opinion in my head of what she might be saying to me. Well, if you can't handle that, you're not going to be prepared to handle what comes at a really high level of success. And even financial mistakes, right? Like I can remember being like, oh my gosh, I made a mistake or I did something and I lost $200. Like it's the end of the world. I think I should quit. I'm terrible at this. And it's like, well, now I make mistakes and add a whole lot of zeros, like
Yeah.
you got to be prepared to take on failure if you want to build that confidence, because I think that's the other thing. We're so scared of things that we don't take action because, oh my gosh, what if it fails? But when you fail 1,000 times, you're like, oh, didn't kill me, get back up again. And that's how you build confidence. That's how you build grit. That's how you build perseverance. And every obstacle that is coming just doesn't seem as daunting,
Yeah. I mean, there's a line out of Marianne Williamson's book, A Woman's Worth. Did you ever read that book?
I have not read that one, but I love Marianne Williamson.
Yeah. Well, I read her book when I was like 30 years old. It was called A Woman's Worth. And there's a line in there where she talks about naysayers. And she said, anytime somebody is talking about you, just turn around and say under your breath, you haven't seen anything yet.
Oh, love that.
Yeah.
Wow. I just got goosebumps again.
Yeah.
And I will add to that a quote that I heard, that we should never, ever listen to anyone's opinion that is not exactly where we want to go or higher. Right. And so I know that there have been times in my life, and family can mean so good. Their job, parents' job is to protect us, is to keep us safe. But so often that's what can derail people, is the opinions of those closest to us. And it took me a long time to even think back with almost like, a good-hearted laugh now. Like, what in the world? Why was I so concerned with my mother's opinion of what I was doing entrepreneurial, trying to build a 7-figure business out in the world? She was an educator and a nurse practitioner. Like, she doesn't have any clue what this world that I'm operating in looks like. And so I could look to entrepreneurs that were ahead on my path, and they believed in me. They encouraged me. They told me to keep going. They told me it was possible. And so those are the only opinions we need to be listening to. We shouldn't be listening to opinions of people that are operating at a lower level than us, but we tend to do that.
Yeah. I mean, and nobody's ever saying anything about you that is like higher than you, by the way,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And, I mean, I remember when I wanted to go back to law school, because, I went to law school with 3 little babies as a single mom,
Wow.
after I got divorced, because I got married at 19 the first time and had 3 kids by the time I was 22, and then
Wow.
got divorced. Yeah. And I remember people saying to me, somebody said to me, yeah, I think it was just one person said to me, oh, you shouldn't go to law school because there are graduates out there who are bagging groceries.
Right.
And
Right.
and I was like, well, somebody's getting jobs from law school. I mean,
Right.
not everybody's bagging groceries.
Yeah.
Like, so why wouldn't it be me?
Right. And
I
the person
mean,
that said that to you is not, it would be one thing if they had gotten a law degree and they were bagging the groceries, but it's probably just, somebody in a completely different professional world, completely different space in their life. And we're so programmed to not encourage each other in this world today that sometimes we don't even realize what we're saying to just completely take the wind out of somebody's sails and their dreams, and that's why it's so incredibly important to surround yourself constantly with people that are pouring belief and pouring that. Really, I always say you want to surround yourself with people that see more in you than you can ever at any point in time see in yourself.
yeah. Yes. There's a Rumi quote that says, set your world on fire, seek those who fan your flames.
Yes.
And so are
Yes.
people fanning your flames? Are they dousing your dousing your fire? Like, are they, pouring water on your fire? Or are they like throwing logs on your fire?
Yes.
So defend your light with your life.
Absolutely. And I think too, for your listeners, it's hard sometimes because I think the most common thing I hear in that situation is, well, I don't have anybody in my life. I don't have anybody that's supporting me or encouraging me. And the thing that I always say to that is this is where podcasts and books and, live events and seminars really do come into play, because you are getting poured into from a group of people that are operating at a higher level. So sometimes we may not yet have that circle of influence around us that's, building us up. But the more you take action, right, and put yourself in situations and circumstances and rooms, that's the only way you're going to build that in real life. But you're not going to build it, sitting on your couch doing nothing. You got to get out there. You've got to build those connections.
Yeah. And honestly, once you start to create that vibrational intention, that's what you want, the people will find you. It'll start to come.
Absolutely. Yes.
So, what last piece of advice would you like to share? What do you want to leave the audience with here?
I love this question. And it's funny because the first time it was asked to me as I was being interviewed, I kind of was like, gosh, there's a million things I want to share, about vision and identity and all the work that I teach and walk people through. But I think one simple thing that has resonated with people, and I believe is truly at the absolute foundation of everything, and I say this over and over again, is listen to that whisper. Listen to the whisper. And I actually just got bracelets for both of my kids and my husband and myself, because I got them for my mastermind members. And I was like, wait, why am I not giving this to my family? The little beaded bracelets with the words. And it just said LTTW, listen to the whisper. And I got my husband and my son like manly, dark, black ones. And I got my daughter one, because if there is one piece of advice that I could give anyone in the world, it's that whisper that is not your brain, not the opinions of others, not your overthinking, but it's in your heart. It's a knowing. It's just a whisper. That's the only way I can explain it. When you listen to that and take action from it, right? Talk to this person, go down this path. Maybe you should leave your job. Maybe this is a bad relationship. When you listen to that whisper, it unlocks every single thing that we're looking to succeed or build or do or create in our lives. And that's the answer. I believe that whisper, the more you listen to it, the more you come to trust it, right? And the more you hear it, you just start to tune into moment by moment throughout the day, just tapping into that inner guidance. And it could be called God, it could be your intuition, it could be your gut feeling, but it's a knowing in your soul that has never, ever, ever been wrong in my book. And it has led to relationships and experiences and unlocking doors that it seems miraculous to me.
All right, let's talk narcissists. Let's talk about the 5 ways to command respect from a narcissist. And I'm going to work backwards from number 5 all the way up to number 1. How can you command respect from a narcissist? A lot of people think narcissists don't respect anybody, right? That's not true. They do respect some people. The number 5 thing that they respect is confidence and people who are self-assured. I say all the time, they don't attach themselves to you initially because you have so little value. They actually attach themselves to you because you have so much value. They like to see people who are super confident and who are super assured. And then once they do attach themselves to you, it actually gives them a feeling of more power to devalue and break down somebody who is confident, who is self-assured, because that makes them feel more powerful. By the way, the more confident you are, the more self-assured you are, the more they do respect you. So if you are that way, they will respect you more. They will command a sense of respect from them. And I do have a whole video called "This is the Only Way to Get Respect from a Narcissist." And I do talk more specifically and more pointedly on some of this, and you might want to check out that video as well. So number 4 is keep emotionally distanced from them. Now, this is more difficult if you're already in a relationship with them. This is where you're going to want to start to emotionally distance from them. If you're already in a romantic relationship with them, if you're already in a business relationship with them, if you're already emotionally close to them, this is where you're going to start to decondition yourself. I don't know if that's even a word, but you're going to start to kind of pull back. You're going to start to put those boundaries in place. You're going to start to move in a different direction, or even just stop the conditioning. I kind of, in my mind, start thinking of it as righting the ship, moving it in a different direction, kind of turning it around so that you're not constantly on the defensive all the time. You're going to start to be on the offensive. You're going to start to show them that, hey, there's a new game in town, that this is not how it's going to go anymore, that you are taking control of yourself and your life, and that you're no longer allowing them to have this power over you. And so you're going to start to be emotionally distanced from them. Your soul is no longer going to allow it anymore. And, it starts kind of with these little whispers. Your soul starts to say, excuse me, no, this is not okay. and you start to sort to feel it, your gut is telling you this is not working for you. If you want more help on how to keep your cool against narcissists, I do have a whole video on how to keep your cool against narcissists, and it will definitely help you. So make sure you check that out. And I do have a whole playlist on self-care when it comes to narcissists. Definitely check that out as well, because you do need to take care of yourself if you are in a relationship with a narcissist as well. So check out that whole playlist as well. And you can stay in control. Just start with mantras. Put in the comments right now, I'm in control. I'm in control. Because you are in control. Just start to believe it. Start to have that mindset that you are in control, because you are. They don't have power over your soul. They don't. No one can help you if you don't believe that you can be helped. Just know that for sure. Okay. So that was number 4. Now we're going to move on to number 3. Number 3 way to command respect from a narcissist is to maintain your independence. So important. Now, if you are already in a relationship with them, again, starting to put those boundaries in place, starting to look for ways to start to create your independence. If you are not already in a relationship with a narcissist, or you're starting to get into a relationship with a narcissist, this is when you're going to go, I'm keeping my independence financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically, in every way that you possibly can. But if you are in a relationship with one already, this is where you're going to start to look for ways to start to have your independence, even if it's just, I'm going for a walk today. I'm going to go take a yoga class today. I'm going to go do something just for me today, whatever it is. I'm going to read a book on my own, start a gratitude journal, start doing some things for yourself, start having some self-care for yourself, whatever it is that you need to do to start having that stuff for yourself. Okay. So that's number 3, maintaining your independence. I love the concept of the July 4th thing, that Declaration of Independence. You can kind of declare your own independence, even if it's just in your own mind, where you're just saying to yourself, you know what, I'm declaring my independence for myself. And what does that mean to you? And, when I have people do my SLAY program, which stands for strategy, leverage, anticipate, and focusing on you, one of the very first parts of strategy is creating your vision. And so many times with people, it's like having this vision of what it is that they really actually want is so foreign for them, because they've spent so much time, and maybe this is you, just defending yourself against narcissists. It's so many years. It's just defend. You just feel like you've been a turtle on your back. You've spent so much time sort of finger pointing and going, they're doing this and they're doing that. And oh my God. And you're just like, you've been assailed so many years by this person that you almost forget. It's almost foreign to you to go, wait a minute, what is it that I want? What is my vision for myself? What is my perfect life? Or you almost feel guilty asking for it, or almost feels strange to ask for it or think about what it is that you want. But if you don't think about what it is that you want, you are certainly not going to get there. You have to almost think of it as a GPS, like, where is it that I want to go? What is it that I actually want? Your GPS can't take you where you want to go if you don't program it. The GPS in your car, it doesn't know where you're going if you don't put the destination in. And it's the same thing with your vision. So, maintain your independence, figure out what it is that you want, and then program it. Okay. That's number 3. Number two is set those strict boundaries. Actually do it. Create boundaries, set them. It's almost like set it and forget it, right? Create them, set them. That's the next way to really, really command respect from a narcissist. I know it's scary. This can be really, really scary if you are in a relationship with a narcissist. They will have a tantrum because they don't want you to set those boundaries. But it's sort of like a 2-year-old having a tantrum on a floor. You know, when they have these parents who've been indulgent or whatever, because they think that all they have to do is scream louder, scream longer, and the parents are going to eventually give in. And that's what happens with narcissists. You know, they're essentially toddlers in adult bodies. They think that they have you conditioned to a certain extent and that you will give in eventually if they just have enough of a tantrum and act a certain way. It's sort of like terrorist tactics, right? And so they want you to be afraid of whatever that backlash is. But honestly, the truth of the matter is that if you set those strict boundaries and you stick with them, that they will eventually give in. Okay. Which brings me to number one, the most important one, the one that really, really will command the most respect from a narcissist. And that is show them that you are not afraid of them. The narcissist is way more afraid of you than you are of them. I promise you that. And they are getting supply from jerking you around, manipulating you, and all of that. They love to see you squirm. They love to trigger you. They're getting supply from that. They get off on that. They get a high from that. They enjoy it. They love the whole thing of it. And the fact that they're able to do all of that means that they're getting somewhere with it. And if they can see that they're no longer getting supply from it, if you can cut off that supply source and they get nothing more from it, then they will no longer want to be there. That's how they really, really will move on down the road. And that's how you will command the most respect from that narcissist.